Welcome to Voyage, the first podcast on crypto's real-world use cases, where you can also discover crypto's global impact one region at a time. Bon voyage!
Mexico is becoming a technological country instead of a manufacturing country.
Yeah.
And that's going to be something pretty interesting in the next 5 to 10 years. People here likes to have cash. And the other reason, also cultural, is that people do not trust banks. Why am I going to deposit my money on a bank if I can have it in my house? There's a saying here in Mexico that you want to get bricks. So you always want to invest in real estate. I would say Mexican trust Mexicans a lot. So if you're selling a product to Mexicans and it seems like it's not a Mexican product, maybe you're going to have a hard time selling that product. So I think that regulation is stopping innovation in the crypto ecosystem in Mexico. We live in an echo chamber where the same users are doing the same stuff in the crypto ecosystem for all time. So right now we're solving that problem on how we can make a protocol to help people pay their services.
Hello, Lalo. Welcome to Voyage. So I remember that we met in East Denver this year, and then I think you came up to me and you were talking about Web3 in Mexico and also the new product Bando that you're building. I'm personally really excited about this episode because Mexico has just been one of my favorite countries. Really fascinated by the culture, the people, the food, of course. I love food. So yeah, I think as someone like myself, I've been living in the US for a very long time. I always have some ideas of what it's like living in Mexico, how the economy is doing. But still, I think when it comes to different country and different culture, I'm probably very ignorant. So it's great to have you here. You know, you personally live in Mexico. You grew up there. You definitely have a lot of insight. So yeah, I would love to start the podcast with some of personal backgrounds and also an overview of how the economy, the culture, and everything is going in Mexico, and then also explore and learn more about how is Web3 and crypto landscape in Mexico. Do you want to give us an introduction about yourself, your personal background, and also how did you get into crypto?
Yeah, of course. And thank you, Jojo, for the invitation. I'm really excited to be here to talk about my country, to talk about tech in the industry. Right now, I'm in Mexico. I'm Lalo. Everyone knows me as Lalo Crypto at Twitter. I have a podcast called Espacio Crypto. We have been doing it for 4 years, and we're one of the biggest Spanish-speaking podcasts across the globe. And also, I co-founded Bando. That is the easiest way to buy and sell crypto in Mexico. But also, we're launching a new protocol on payments that is going to be global. So I'm really excited to talk about it, like maybe in 1 month. But right now we're working behind the scenes about it. And Jojo, about your question, my parents are Mexicans. I live here since I was zero. I mean, I was born here.
Yeah.
I was always interested in finance and tech. So I was this geek guy that used to fix my parents' computers, my family's computers, and everyone thought that I was gonna be like a software engineer or something. But I studied finance. I loved it. I studied here in Mexico, and then I studied abroad in Chicago.
Oh.
Then I went to San Diego State University as well to make an entrepreneurship boot camp. So I've been studying about finance and tech. And that's when I started in crypto. When I was 16, I used to code on PineView, that is a really old language for TradingView specifically to start doing and automatizing trading strategies. So I started there. I fell in love with finance, so I started doing other stuff in the traditional markets. I used to code decision-making algorithms for banks. So it's like traditional stocks. And we used to do this for the biggest banks in Latin America. And that's where I started realizing about Bitcoin. So I was doing trading, I was automatizing these strategies, and I saw a ticker that says BTC, that it was going up and down. It was crazy, the volatility. So I was like, yeah, let's go into it. I my like my first approach on Bitcoin was in 2016. I bought some Bitcoin, I started trading it, and then I realized I heard about Ethereum when the hack of the DAO happened. So I was not a lot into crypto, but after that, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I decided just to stop doing anything related about traditional markets and move everything into crypto. So I started automatizing strategies in the Web3 ecosystem, and then I landed into Bitso, that is one of the biggest exchange in Latin America, and I was a product guy there for a couple of years.
Got it, got it. I love how you say you studied finance and you loved it. I also studied finance and I hated it. That's how I pivoted to crypto. I remember when I first met you, I had no idea about who's who in, Latin America. And also in Mexico, right? And then I was asking one of my colleagues, Juan, he's very deep into the community in Latin, and then he's like, we need to talk to this guy Lalo. They're like really legit. They know what they're doing, and they're really good at what they're doing. Super happy to have you on here, and then thanks for the introduction of your background. And everything you're working on. So when you're ready to talk about your new product, happy to have a chat again as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Ether is gonna be like a payment protocol for people to spend their money, I mean, their crypto into the real world in a simple way for wallets and dApps. So we're gonna allow people globally to spend their crypto in their real life, not only to make swaps, not only to make lending, I mean, DeFi stuff, but what about buying something on Amazon? So yeah, that's kind of the teaser. We should talk about it and then maybe record another podcast to talk about
Sure,
it.
sure. Yeah. I like if you have like a demo or something you could show us, that would be great as well. But yeah, super excited about the launch of the product. Back into you grew up in Mexico, now you live in Mexico, you have the best understanding of what's going on in the country. I was doing some research on the overall economy landscape in Mexico. I think in the recent years, you guys are doing quite well. There's a lot of labor reforms, a lot of like redesign of social protection network that really bolstered the income of Mexican families. Also, I think you guys have probably the lowest unemployment rates right now in the country. But these are just like cold numbers and research I was reading online, right? So I would love to hear, as someone that currently live there, how is the economy overall, and how does that impact people's normal daily life?
Yeah, totally. I think that one of the main things that has been improving the economy is the opportunity of nearshoring. So all the things going on between US and China, Mexico has been benefiting a lot. The auto industry is growing a lot. The aerospace, electronics are booming in Mexico. So we're doing a lot of tech stuff. More in the board, like Tijuana and all the north of Mexico, they're doing great on that sense. And yeah, I mean, the economy in that sense is booming. The unemployment rate is being pretty low. I think that one of the main things that we need to focus on that is that on wages. There's a lot of employment, but maybe the wages are not as great as people may think. But yeah, I mean, in that sense, the economy has been growing a lot. Renewable energy, logistics sectors, like globalization,
Yeah.
And we have been benefiting a lot about nearshoring, so we have been doing a lot of tech as well. And e-commerce is growing a lot. So Mercado Libre, Amazon, Walmart have been doing a lot of investments in Mexico to be their center of logistics. And I love that because we are implementing a lot of tech in the things. And it used to be more like a manufacturing country, and now we have been becoming like an engineering country. One of the main things that I like to mention in that sense is that Mexico, I think, is in the top 5 countries that get most engineers graduated every year.
Wow.
So that's like a really good one.
That's actually pretty impressive because I would never thought about engineering degree would be such huge demand in Mexico right now. So for like young people, what are some of the most desired jobs and also industry or sectors?
That's a good question. I would say the auto industry, like Tesla is opening a factory in the north of Mexico.
Okay.
I have a lot of friends interested in cars, aerospace as well. In that sense, I think is that also the tech industry is growing a lot in Mexico City. Guadalajara is becoming like a tech hub. And we have been seeing it. Like there are a lot of digital nomads living in Mexico City. A lot from people from the US, from Europe are living there. And in that sense, like the conversations are getting more interesting. It's not like an introductory conversation. It's more of blockchain conversations, AI conversations. So it's not like the normal stuff that people talks about. I've been seeing a lot of events about this. I'm really excited about that because I think that people in Mexico are starting to break this barrier
Mm.
of working on tech. That it just not to be a thing. I remember when I started coding, it was like, oh, this guy knows how to code, and now it's like a normal thing. Maybe not like a normal thing because maybe only a few people knows how to do it, but it's still growing a lot in percentage.
That's actually a really good sign of the country is moving forward, kind of have this reform from really labor heavy focused into, investment
Problem.
next. Yeah, and then like train the young people to have a more innovative mindset other than just like work in labor intense industries. So I guess like more on normal people in Mexico. What do you guys like to do, I guess, for fun? Like what do you guys like to spend money on? I think the reason is to kind of understand like spending behavior and consumer behavior in Mexico, right? If you earn money, what do normal people like to spend it on? Like is it real estate? Or do they just want to deposit in banks? Do they explore different options in investment and stocks?
That's pretty interesting because I think that the society is there are two phases, like people that can save money and people that cannot.
Mm,
And there's a lot of people that lives paycheck to paycheck. So
yeah.
they don't even think about investing or saving. Only 50% of Mexicans have a bank account.
Oh.
So that talks a lot about how much cash is used. I remember the first time I went to the US and I tried to pay with cash in Domino's Pizza, and they said like we don't accept cash. I was like, wow, how do you how do you do this? Like in Mexico, yeah, you gotta have cash. But in that sense, I think that there's like a really big opportunity for fintechs. I don't know if you know Nubank, but Nubank is growing a lot. Okay, so Nubank is a Brazilian bank
Mm.
that started let's say a few years ago, comparing it to a traditional bank, and they have been getting a lot and a lot of users. It's crazy how Nubank has been growing. I don't want to say a number, but I would say double digits each year on users growth, and is becoming one of the biggest banks in Mexico, and is
Oh.
a bank that doesn't have like is a fintech. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities for fintech to start getting users. And the other one that I was really impressed is Oxxo, that is basically a 7-Eleven in Latin America. They launched their cards. At the moment that they launch a debit card, they become the biggest bank in Mexico because they have a lot of stores. So imagine you just have a store and then you launch a card and an app and you
Yeah.
become the biggest bank in Mexico.
That's crazy. But like when did they start? Is it like pretty recent or
Yeah, it was like 3 years ago. So imagine that 7-Eleven launched their own card
oh
and everyone wants to open a card just because there is an OXXO in every corner of Mexico. So
mm,
you can go there, you can withdraw cash from the cashier. Like you don't even need to have an ATM, so you don't even need to invest in an ATM. You just go there and say, I want to make a withdrawal of 1,000 Mexican pesos. They give you the money in cash. So yeah, I mean, Mexico is a really interesting market for innovating in the banking and payment ecosystem because of this kind of stuff.
mm. Yeah, definitely. When I was thinking about in the US or China or wherever, if you say that we're the biggest bank of XYZ country, normally the banks have been on the market for like 50 to 100 years. And then, you just mentioned only 3 years or something. That kind of shows you how many opportunities that are out there in Mexico that people could just think about innovation and then really implement it and make it work. That was actually a really good example though, because I was
Yeah.
just ask, for example, normal mobile apps or real things like a debit card. And what do people use the most in Mexico? Do governments kind of have these apps and then they push it to the people, or is it more like for a bank to launch something or an app to launch something on the internet and then they kind of just promote it without any government help or support?
Yeah, they don't do any government help. And just
Mm.
talking about the thing that we were talking about, new opportunities. For example, Nubank, I was reading a few days ago that in 3 months they acquired 2 million users.
Oh,
And now
wow.
they have 7 million users, and that is like, I would say, is like 3% of the population in Mexico. That acquiring 2% of the, or 3% of the total population in Mexico in 3 months is crazy,
Yeah.
and they are growing super fast. So I really think that there's a lot of opportunity for fintechs, and we have been seeing a lot of investments
Mm.
on these kind of new banks for Mexico and for Brazil. I would say Plata, even Didi, that is the Uber competition, launched a credit card. Rappi, that is kind of Uber Eats, launched their
Mm.
credit card. So everyone wants to become a bank, and there's a joke here in Mexico that says, even you die or you live enough for becoming a fintech, because everyone wants to launch a fintech app here in Mexico because of that. I think that there's a lot of opportunities. So yeah, I mean, there are some banks that have been in the country for hundreds of years, literally like 100 years, and they have not acquired the number of users that Nubank has acquired in the last 2 years.
Mm.
So yeah, I've seen a lot of innovation there, and I think that the main reason is because Nubank has been really aggressive with interest.
Okay.
So if you have your money at Nubank, you got 15% a year,
Wow.
compared to other banks
Yeah.
that are giving you 11%,
Good.
12%. So it's like a strategy to grow. They are losing a lot of money year per year. We
Mm.
we ca- we can see the reports because Nubank is listed on the Nasdaq,
Okay.
and how they are acquiring users so fast by investing heavily on technology. I think
Hmm.
that is a really interesting use case.
Yeah, for sure. Also back to when you first talk about fintech innovation and how there are two different kinds of people that save money or they live paycheck by paycheck. So when you talk about maybe like 50% of people, they just like carry a lot of cash. Is it because of financial accessibility? It's not that convenient for people in Mexico, or is it just because it's a lifestyle kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. So I think that there are, I would say, two factors. One is cultural.
Mm.
People like to have cash, and when I mentioned that I only have like $20 in my wallet, everyone, I mean, why? Is because I have like three cards. Why do I need cards if I have cards? Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people here likes to have cash. And the other reason, also cultural, is that people do not trust banks. Why am I gonna deposit my money on a bank if I can have it in my house? So I think that there's a lot of opportunity in that sense. And I think that approach, like older people have that approach. But
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people like having bunch of cash in just their pants because it is that way. And maybe the third factor is because of taxes.
Mm.
There is a culture of, if you pay in cash, then you don't need to report that to the government. And then
Right.
if you spend it in cash, no one knows about it.
Mm.
So here the SAT, that is the institution that regulate regulates taxes, has been doing a lot of movements for starting acquiring those people and investigating them, because if you move everything in cash, then you don't pay any taxes, and yeah, that's the other situation.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm very curious, like you mentioned, it's like a cultural thing that people don't trust the bank generally. Is there a historical reason why people don't trust it? Because I know, for example, I was actually recording an episode on Ghana a few weeks ago. My friend also mentioned people don't trust the bank. They don't trust the government. So, but there is, a reason for that because inflation is just crazy. And, like the banks can just like put your deposit on hold, like you can't even withdraw. So there's a lot of these examples in Ghana. So that's why people don't trust the bank. Yeah, I guess my question is just why is that people don't trust the bank generally?
Yeah, something happened in 1994 that is like, in Mexico, it happened like a really big financial crisis,
Okay.
where if people had a mortgage and they were paying 10% on interest rates, as the rate was variable, I don't know what happened exactly, but it went up like 50%. And then people started couldn't start paying their mortgages and their loans, and then a lot of inflation happened, and they were giving like super interesting rates. I don't know, maybe 100% a year, even higher. It was crazy. It was a long time ago, but I remember my grandma telling me about it. And then banks are starting to go bankruptcy. They didn't pay their users, so this kind of stuff happened a lot in 1994. So I think that it was a cultural thing that people start saying like, okay, I'm not gonna trust banks again. Also, in Mexico, you could save in dollars, and then from one day to another one, banks said like, okay, you cannot do that anymore, and I'm gonna give you a horrible FX rate because I can. So it was like, okay, I lost a lot of money saving in dollars in Mexican banks. So maybe I just want to have my money in cash under my bed, and that's it.
Got it. So there is like a historical reason
Yeah.
why people don't trust the banks. But then for normal people nowadays, what are some of the ways for them or like preferred method for them to grow their wealth? Is it more like investment, real estate, stocks?
Yeah, there's a saying here in Mexico that you wanna get bricks. So you always wanna invest in real estate. And it's a cultural thing as well. Like people tend to have money and buy a house, and that's it. I mean, they invest in that. They don't do bonds, they don't do stocks, they don't do crypto. Is always buying real estate. And we have been seeing a lot of projects on doing crowdfunding to invest in real estate, and all Mexicans love real estate because it's a cultural thing. I know that people in the US tend to invest in other stuff and diversify their investments,
Yeah.
but here, if you met someone that is rich and you tell him and ask him, like, hey, where do you invest your money at? I can almost say that 99% of people mention real estate. And I think that the reason that people do not invest in stocks is just because the same thing that I mentioned, that they do not trust financial institutions here in Mexico. Also, the Mexican market is not that big. So people tend to invest in real estate, or they invest a lot on ETFs, but that's like the 10% of the people that invest on ETFs. Year by year, we haven't seen a lot of interest, or at least on terms of growth. In Mexico, the user acquisition of crypto has been growing three digits. So it seems like crypto could be an interesting investment solution for Mexicans, but we have been seeing also rookie numbers. If we had, I don't know, 1 million users, this year we had 2 million users. But if you can increase 100% every year for the next 5 years, this is
Yeah.
gonna be great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a good point when you mentioned, crypto is becoming very popular to the general people. What's the general perception of people when it comes to crypto in Mexico right now?
It used to be like, if you mentioned that you were in crypto, everyone could say that it was a scam. And I've seen this evolution because I was since 2016. So in 2016 it was like crypto is a scam.
Yeah.
Or they didn't even know what crypto was. Then 2018 happened, that we went into a bull market. It went
Yeah.
all the way to 20K Bitcoin, and then it went down to 3K, and people said crypto was a scam. So I was correct because I said crypto was a scam. And then maybe 2020, the question was, what backs up crypto? And now 2022, 2023, 2024, it's like, okay, that's interesting, but I do not understand it. So I think that people are getting into that sense right now, that they have been hearing about crypto for a long time now, but they cannot understand how crypto works because it's way different. So if we can do an educational effort about crypto, I think that it could become pretty interesting.
Got it, got it. So is the government trying to like educate people on crypto? Are they trying to regulate it? What's their sentiments toward crypto?
Yeah, I think that the government doesn't care about crypto right now. It's just the thing that crypto is too small for them to care.
Mm,
So they have other things to be worried about.
Hmm.
Uh, so the IRS here in Mexico, that is called SAT, they don't even care about crypto right now. So it's just like a activity that no one cares about. Let's see how it goes in the next years.
Hmm.
Right now that in the US, Trump and Kamala Harris and this presidential election had become like a crypto thing, maybe we're gonna start seeing some stuff in Mexico, but not really. I mean, I don't think that government cares. I remember a year ago I was in the Senate giving a talk about crypto, but to be honest, they don't understand it, they don't care about it, and
Yeah.
they have other problems.
What was the occasion? Like, who invited you to give a speech if they didn't care about it?
Yeah, it was a senator
Uh,
that was trying to get some votes. So
uh,
maybe it was like, yeah, bring some crypto folks just to talk about crypto and to show the young people in Mexico that I know the word blockchain.
mm.
But to be honest, I felt pretty used by that senator.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess for people that actually understand or like, have an interest in crypto, it's still a very small or niche of people in Mexico, right?
Yeah, it's still niche. And I think also because of regulation, there's not a clear regulation, or maybe it was there are two parts. There's not a clear regulation enough for you to operate in Mexico, or there are so clear regulations that no one can operate into those regulations. So maybe just Pizzo can.
Mm,
And government a few like 5 years ago or so launched the fintech law
okay.
that is a regulation on how fintech can operate with crypto assets. And the license is super, it costs like $1.5 million.
No.
So not a lot of companies invest in that. It takes like 18 months to get a license. So I think that regulation is stopping innovation in the crypto ecosystem in Mexico.
Right now, the regulation landscape is pretty tight if you want to, really get the mass adoption and trying to operate in the entire country.
Yeah, exactly. It's like basically it's not possible to custody assets
Mm.
in, in Mexico, and only one company can do so, that is Bitso.
Uh,
So if you wanna do things with crypto, you wanna do other stuff rather than an exchange.
mm.
And that's pretty hard because if you don't have ways to buy crypto in Mexico, then how are you gonna use it?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of P2P transactions in the P2P market. The OTC market is big, like people transacting Mexican pesos into USDC between either cash or bank transfers. But yeah, I mean, I think that buying crypto in an exchange has been a monopoly in the sense that only one company can do that.
How does that, because I know you're building Bando and then also the new
Yeah.
project. So how does that affect you guys as a builder in Mexico?
I think that's a really interesting thing because maybe in that time when Bitso launched, that it was, I think, 2015, I would like to say, or even 2014. Exchanges needed to custody assets, and there was no DeFi.
Mm,
There was no even Ethereum. So right now the market is way different. I think that there's a space for innovation, but you need to be super smart on how you do it. So yeah, that's why people that innovates in the crypto ecosystem in Mexico goes to the US or even go to El Salvador, goes to other countries just because regulation here in Mexico is super tight on crypto. So yeah, I mean, let's see in a few years how it goes, but right now it's been complicated.
that's a good word to describe it, complicated. I guess like more specific to what you're building, because I know for Bando, you guys have a vision of acquiring real users. So can you kind of tell us about Bando and then also the vision behind it?
Yeah, of course. So we realized that in Latin America, people couldn't have a simple way to buy crypto. So for you to buy crypto in Mexico, you need to make a bank transfer. Then if you wanted to buy, I don't know, let's say USDC on Scroll, you had to withdraw Ether in mainnet to your MetaMask, then do a bridge,
Mm.
and then you get USDC, and that those stages, like those steps, are super hard. So we decided just to go in a simple way. We offer on ramps in 17 different chains. So we're the product with more chains, I think, across Latam right now. And we made that through smart contracts integration. Like we try to open this market to a broader audience and people that wanted to buy crypto in different chains. But the vision right now is to make crypto really useful. I think that we live in an echo chamber where the same users are doing the same stuff in the crypto ecosystem for all time. I don't know you, yo, but example for me, I just do swaps and payments. Like I pay my team in the with USDC. I do one or two swaps. Maybe I get a loan from Aave, but once a year I provide liquidity, and maybe I'm one of the 10% users that use the most crypto. But how can we make crypto useful in the sense that, okay, I have USDC, how can I spend it? If I want to spend it in Mexico, I would need to off ramp, and then from my traditional bank account, I would pay any asset. So right now we're solving that problem on how we can make a protocol to help people pay their services, their internet, how they can spend their money on Amazon, how can they buy Netflix with crypto, how we can make crypto really, really useful in that sense, and not only to provide liquidity in meme coins or just go to pump.fun and buy meme coins again. So how can we make really crypto part of our day-to-day life? So that's the vision.
Exactly. And how long has Bando been on the market?
Okay, so we have been building Bando for a year now. We have been live almost 6 months, and we realized that we had the team and the knowledge to go global. So it was a product right now only launched in Mexico, but at the beginning of October we're gonna launch globally, and we're gonna give support to 130 countries to spend their crypto in different uh, commerces. So you can do it on Amazon, Netflix. I have 4,000 different merchants where people can spend their money. So I'm really excited about that because what we did is we use the same protocol for the on and off ramps where people can buy with basically any coin. I mean, I'll take your Pepes if you want to buy
Wow.
a Starbucks gift card. So yeah, I mean, we can do that on a lot of chains like L2 from Bitcoin, such as Rootstock. We can do that with Scroll. We can do that uh, with Moonriver, that is a parachain in the Polkadot ecosystem. So we're reusing our protocol to accept a lot of crypto for you to use it on your day-to-day basis. So yeah, just a little bit of context. The founders, we used to work at Bitso, that is the biggest exchange in Latam. We met there, we started doing stuff together. I co-founded Espacio Crypto with my co-founder Abraham, that we're building Bando together. And we were interviewing a lot of people, and we were like, okay, we need to do something in the crypto ecosystem, just not working at Bitso. That it was great, but now we wanted to do our own stuff. And we iterated a lot. Actually, first we wanted to do like an educational academy on crypto, and then it was ramps, and we realized that people wants to spend their money more than they want to buy crypto. So that's how we decided to start building this product.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I think I remember you were telling me about this like educational content that you guys were producing. I think it was really great, like very high quality, and then also, like you mentioned before, especially in Mexico, I think right now still needs a lot of education on normal people to let them know crypto is not a scam, to kind of show them, hey, you can actually use crypto in real life, and it's beneficial.
Spanish is the second most speaking
Yeah, yeah.
language in the world. So if we create content, it's not only for Mexico, it's for all across Latam, Spain, and Mexico is the biggest market. So what we still do is Espacio Crypto, that is a podcast and a community, and we're launching actually Espacio Crypto Academy where people can learn about crypto. And we've been doing a lot of content. Actually, we did a lot of workshops about Scroll, about DYDX, about Arbitrum. So anyone that is listening to this podcast and want to learn crypto in Spanish, they can go to espaciocrypto.io. That is a project we have been doing it for 4 years, and it's only for the sake of educating people in crypto. We do not charge anything, and it's more like a public good rather than a business.
That's pretty amazing. So I guess to dig a little bit deeper on Bando and also the Mexican market, like you guys have been live for 6 months. Who are the users? And like how does the demographic look like for Bando users?
That's a good one. We noticed that most of our users that are like high value users, let's say that way, that transact a lot, that use the product a lot, like our power users, they're users that works in the crypto ecosystem.
Mm,
Uh, so DAO contributors, people that works in crypto projects, freelancers, NFT artists, they're using a lot Bando to off ramp, and then in the other way, we've been seeing people using Bando to make payments.
okay.
And that one was like a really interesting use case. We started interviewing people, and one of the cases it was someone from the US that lived in Mexico City for 6 months, and they pay rent with crypto. So it was like, okay, I want to pay the rent with crypto, so you can use Bando to off ramp it.
Mm,
There was another user that I interviewed that user needed to make payments from Mexico to the US. So he used Bando, he used USDC, and then it sent it to the US, off ramp it on Coinbase, and then make the payments.
mm,
And we've been seeing that use case sometimes, and I think that one is a really interesting one to explore. I think that the company that can explode that use case of payments between Mexico and the US. Not US to Mexico, but Mexico to the US.
okay.
That one is gonna be pretty interesting because yeah, we know that remittances are huge. Actually, remittances contribute is the second contributor to the GDP of Mexico after oil. So remittances is huge. I've been doing a lot of research on that. I presented it to the Ethereum Foundation. And everyone knows that the remittances market between the US and Mexico is great. But we've been seeing another one that is from Mexico to the US.
Hmm, that's
And
interesting.
I think there's a use case there.
What are the use cases? Like I understand from US to Mexico because a lot of Mexican people work in the US and then they send money back home. What's the vice versa?
The vice versa is people paying vendors in the US.
Mm,
So there's a lot of businesses here that are getting goods from the US, from the car industry, aerospatial, tech industry, buying stuff from the US, and they need to make payments to the US people. And the other one is people studying abroad, like Mexicans studying in the US, families sending money to their loved ones in the US. And I used to be that guy.
yeah.
I studied in Chicago, and it was pretty interesting on how I manage money, because if I needed cash, I ask a friend in the US like, hey, can I have 20, 40, I don't know, $100? And next time we go to McDonald's or whatever, I'll pay with my card.
Oh,
So I pay with my card, they give me cash, but it was complicated because I had to pay a lot of fees
mm,
to withdraw money from the ATM, or the FX rate was not that good. So yeah, that was one thing that we used to do a lot, and I think that my Mexican fellows studying in the US, even today, they keep doing that.
yeah. I used to be that girl as well. I'm Chinese and I was studying abroad in the US. I didn't realize it back then because like every time my parents sent me money through like wire transfer, there's always a fee, right? I didn't
It's super expensive, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I realized at that time, I was like, oh, this is normal, I guess, for every bank. But then now I'm in crypto, sending money to whoever in the world. I'm like, I never want to pay this fee again. It's so much and so slow. So
It
I,
took like 3 days, right?
yeah, it was really expensive.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, I mean, by using crypto, we can do all that stuff.
Yeah,
So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for international payments.
for sure.
That's gonna be one thing that is gonna be exploding in the next few years.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pretty excited about that as well. I guess for Bando and then also in a broader landscape of Web3 in Mexico. What are some of the difficulties you've experienced in acquiring new users?
That's a good one. I think that one of the main things is people are scared about crypto,
Mm,
in the sense of it's complicated. So if you tell someone like, hey, you need to download MetaMask, and the first thing they see once they download it is like, here are 12 words that if you lose them, you're gonna lose all your money. Are you sure you wanna continue? It's like,
Like, no.
no, I prefer to put it on my bank account or under my couch.
Yeah.
So I think that these new technologies as account abstraction and NPC wallets are gonna help a lot. Another challenge is education. So why do I need crypto? Because in Mexico, for the last 5 years, maybe the last month, it was not that this way, but the Mexican peso was really strong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we started the presidential um, period where the peso was 21 pesos was $1, and it ended up like 18 Mexican pesos was $1. So what I wanted to invest in US dollars or whatever, if Mexican peso is doing great. But we can see other cases like Argentina that the Argentinian peso has been, yeah, it was crazy. I remember like 1 year ago that the FX rate was $1 600 Argentinian pesos, and a few weeks ago it was 1,200.
Yeah.
So it was a 100% inflation rate. So you're not seeing those kind of statistics like in Argentina, like in Colombia, like in Venezuela, where Latin Americans are losing their purchasing power.
Mm.
In Mexico, they are not. So maybe that's one reason. And the other one, I think that is a normal state of the market where there's the market is like super flat right now.
Yeah.
There's not like a lot of interesting stuff. At one point, meme coins was like an amazing stuff, but it seems like it stopped. NFTs in the last cycle, but there's not a lot of innovation that is bringing retail.
Mm. That's true.
If we compare it to the ETFs of Bitcoin and Ethereum, a lot of institutions are entering the space, but not a lot of retail.
We'll probably just need another bull market to mass adoption.
Make it possible, Yo-Yo.
Yeah,
Happen,
yeah.
please.
I'll try my best. Um, but yeah, so I think another question that I'm personally very curious about is the culture and consumer behavior side of things. This doesn't need to be Web3. It could be traditional industries in Mexico as a country as a whole. What are some of the stuff that if people were come to build in Mexico, what are some differences between consumer or retail in Mexico and people elsewhere? Is there any very specific culture things you have to be aware of, or just anything related to that?
Wow, this one is an interesting one. Um, I would say Mexican trust Mexicans
Mm.
a lot. So if you're selling a product to Mexicans and it seems like it's not a Mexican product, maybe you're gonna have a hard time selling that product. One of the examples is that Nubank, the bank, the fintech that I've been talking a lot about, did a really big marketing campaign with one of the most influential actresses
Oh.
of Mexico, and she did an amazing job. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of sports advertisements, etc., but this actress was like a really big thing.
Mm.
We're also a lot about Mexican traditions and Mexican influencers. So there's this TV show that I really hate. Have you ever seen Big Brother?
No, I don't think so.
No? Like they put people in a house and they lock them like for 3 months, and each week you gotta nominate someone and you had to vote for that person. It's like a reality show.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
Some others like similar shows, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and in statistics, like I remember that the final episode of that reality show, the winner had more votes than the Mexican president. So it's like a really big cultural thing to know a lot about Mexican influencers.
Mm.
Instagram, TikTok is like a really big thing.
Mm.
TV is not what it used to be. I would even say sports are not the same thing that they used to be. Now it's all about influencers. So if you're launching any product, you want to do something with influencer marketing, even micro influencers.
Okay.
They drive a lot of popularity here in Mexico. And also, as I mentioned before, if you're doing a fintech product, you need to accept cash. You need to think in ways to not make people think about not using cash. So that's more specifically about finance and fintech and whatever. But you cannot just go like in a different direction than the cultural market. That is it. You cannot change the education of people because you're gonna end up with a failure in that sense. So
Yeah.
just go with the flow, understand the market, understand Mexicans.
Mhm.
We're super warm. You can do any question to any Mexican. You're gonna receive like all the feedback you need.
Yeah.
In that sense, we're super open to that. Uh, and I think those are like the main things that I would like to highlight.
That's actually a really great point. I think influencer marketing right now is just very popular everywhere. But then when you think about it in the US, right, like it doesn't really matter which country or what race you are. Like people will still watch your content and trust you and buy stuff. But I think for example, if you want to crack the Mexican market, you need to speak Spanish. You need to find the Mexican influencers. That's some really good advice. And also accept cash. And that's also very interesting because a lot of places in the world, like they're trying to go like cashless, right? They're trying to do like mobile payments and everything. So that's also something very unique to the Mexican market.
Yeah, and I would like to mention that it's not about technological penetration. I would say I read some statistics that 90% of Mexicans have a smartphone. So it's not about smartphone penetration. It's not about internet. It's not because we do not understand technology. It's just because people like cash, and that's the culture. Maybe if the Mexican IRS start becoming like tougher on the regulations, maybe we would need to switch, but not really. I mean, everyone moves with cash, and I think that that's gonna be an interesting challenge for Mexicans to digitalize and start using better products because I do agree that having a bank account is way better than having the money under your bed, but that's how Mexican culture is.
Um, and then I guess my last question is, since we were talking about having a bull market, working Web3, maybe specifically to Mexico, or this could be Latin market in general, or just like the general Web3 market. What do you wish people are building right now?
I would say better financial products.
Okay.
Uh, If if you improve the financial life of someone, you improve their life as a whole. So I don't really understand how 50% of Mexicans do not have a bank account. And that's not a problem of Mexicans. That's a problem of the banks that have been providing a horrible experience to other Mexicans that I would say horrible things about banks, and my cousin is gonna hear about that and no, like he's not gonna open a bank account. But once you see Nubank, another one pretty interesting is Dollar App, maybe Bitso, like these fintechs that have been doing good job, like protecting the user's money, providing good services. Um, you don't need to go to a bank in the corner of your street where you need to make lines for half an hour just to make a withdrawal. So if you can improve financial people's lives, I think that that's how you drive the economy in the country. So I would like to see better financial apps, obviously, health apps, internet penetration, educational penetration, better education in Mexico. There are some edu tech companies doing great job in Latin America, such as Platzi. So there's a lot of efforts for educating people in different stuff. But I think that it's just a matter of time that um, people across the globe will start seeing Mexico as a technical hub. Just because of the statistics that I gave to you, like Mexico is becoming a technological country instead of a like manufacturing country,
Yeah.
and that's gonna be like something pretty interesting in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's actually really interesting. I think I should pay a visit to Mexico, like not Cancun. So
You
like actual Mexico. Like I don't think Cancun is like a good representation of Mexico.
you should. I mean, Mexico and the US are so close that it's
Yeah.
like it takes like 2 hours flight and that's it.
No, yeah, definitely. Latin market in general is just very interesting right now because there's a lot of innovation happening because it has
Yeah.
happened. And people are trying to improve their lives using different technology, blockchain, crypto. So it's definitely moving a lot faster than like US or Europe.
Yeah, I think that we're gonna see a factor of leapfrog, where people that even didn't have a bank account, eventually they're just gonna have like an app,
Mm,
yeah, and a fintech app, where they didn't go like from these steps that a lot of people in Europe and the US went through. That it was like, okay, I open a bank account in my JP Morgan or whatever, and then I go to a neobank or a Robinhood, like normal steps. I think that in that time and Mexico, maybe just like from having a phone to having crypto,
mm.
and they didn't even know about that. That's happening in El Salvador. That is happening in Mexico with Dollar App. That is an app where you can save in USD, but
Okay.
actually use USDC. So people are starting to save money in crypto and they didn't even know about it. So I think that we're gonna see a lot of innovation in that sense, where we're gonna leapfrog into new technologies.
Yeah, I mean, pretty excited to see what's going to happen in the next 5 years or so. Thank you so much for your insights. It was really helpful.
Yeah, I'm really glad to make this. I do not tend to do podcasts in English, so
Oh,
I
really?
understood. So, yeah, it's always a pleasure, Yo-Yo. I really appreciate it, and I think that making this kind of stuff not super crypto related and more focused on people that want to know a little bit more about crypto or want to know a little bit more about different countries. I think that this kind of content is awesome.
Thank you so much, Lalo.